Welcome to Don't Do Disney
Without Us.
My name's Daniel.
And my name is Zach.
And welcome back. This is episode, number 7?
I think 7.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. And until I'm proven wrong, I say it's 7. We're going to talk about the things that are coming up this week and the Walt Disney Disneyverse, as it was. That's redundant.
The Walt Disney Disneyverse?
Yeah, I'm working on it. It's a working thing. It's a thing that I'm working on. And then we'll talk about our main stories of the week, which this week we got some doozies for you because we spent the weekend over at Disney last weekend. So we got some things to talk about. And then, we'll give you our heroes and villains of the week. That's how the show works. Right?
That is until we arbitrarily change the format again.
Always tweaking. Anyway.
Always tweaking, Wazowski. Always tweaking.
Thank you, Roz. Let's just jump right into it. Coming up this week in Disney, it was announced just this past week that the Hoop Dee Doo, or as we like to call it around here, the Howdy Do review is going to be returning on June 23rd. Is that 6/23?
Yes.
June 23rd. Reservations are going to open back up in May 26th. So get those reservations for the Howdy Do review.
We have not been.
We have never been to the
Howdy Do review.
We have never been to the Howdy Do review. That is true.
It is going to be, much like a lot of other things Disney has done recently, updated to remove some of the more unfortunate elements of the show.
Was it unfortunate elements of the Howdy Do review, or is it just more updating it because it was kind of hokey?
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
I can't think of anything in that. It's not like they have, a Chief Wanna Stomp 'em or whatever kind of Indian stereotypical character in it or something like FSU used to. I think, I don't know. The thing that has always scared me about the Howdy Do review is the participation. I don't want to get picked for participation.
You don't want to.
I don't want to go.
So we need to sit somewhere in the back corner where they can't see you.
I don't want to participate. I don't want to be on stage participating. That's it. That's all.
So you want to enjoy other people participating?
Yes, exactly. That is my right.
Do you not want to participate in any other sort of dinner theater?
I am not a big participator in the dinner. I want to eat my dinner
at the dinner theater.
I want to enjoy other people theating.
That's not a word.
It could be. Go ahead.
March 30th, Disney teased via TikTok that non-distance character meet and greets with hugging and, autograph book signing and whatnot were coming back. And then it was confirmed the next day on the Disney Parks blog that those sorts of character interactions, the pre-pandemic character interactions, the normal character interactions, however you want to term it, will be coming back to Disney World, Disneyland, Aulani, and Disney Cruise Line as early as April 18th. This is apparently going to be a phased sort of rolling back phased return of this.
I feel like they haven't rehired all the face characters that they need to hire there, so it's probably there will be some princess meet and greets that'll be missing because they need to hire people for them. So,
right.
Yeah. Also, I need you to eat your microphone because you're too far away from your microphone. Anyway, on March 31st, All-Star Sports reopened, making it the first time since the everything closed back in March of 2020 that all 34 Walt Disney World resorts are open. So, congratulations. If you are trying to stay at Walt Disney World, you now have a 34th resort to get your rooms in.
And note that 34 number counts all the wings, all the DVC wings of the various hotels.
Reservations. Like you can't book at Bay Lake Tower through the Contemporary. I mean, it's attached to Contemporary, but Bay Lake Tower is a separate booking from Contemporary Hotel. So there's 34 individually addressable hotels that you could book a room at. Right?
So should I send a self-addressed stamped hotel?
Yes, exactly. And then go ahead.
March 31st was a really big day for Disney News.
It was. That's because they didn't want to do it on April Fool's Day. So
right, because nobody would believe them. So they're like, here's this giant news dump.
Yeah.
The menu for Connections Eatery at Epcot was fully revealed.
We're not entirely sure what that place is going to be called because we've seen it called Connections Cafe. We've seen it called Connections Cafe and Eatery. We've seen it just called Connections Eatery. I'm not sure internally they've fully decided on what we definitely know it starts with Connections.
So somebody pointed out to me on Twitter that Connections Eatery is the quick service restaurant. Connections Cafe is the Starbucks. Because that's going to be the new permanent location of the Epcot Starbucks.
Well, there you go. That explains it.
But yes, they've been referring to it as Connections Cafe and Eatery, and then all of a sudden they're switching to just Connections Eatery when they're talking about the restaurant.
About the food, yeah.
So it was just...
So we're going to be losing that Starbucks, that temporary...
Correct. That will close. Travelers Cafe, I think it's called, or something like that.
I don't know. It just blocks that path.
The one over by the new Epcot bathrooms.
Okay. Also on March 31st, it was announced the Food and Wine dates were announced for Epcot. They're going to be taking place July 14th through November 19th. So the new, I'm sure more information will be coming out on that. More than 25 marketplace food booths located throughout Epcot. Returning favorites will include the Swanky Saucy Swine, Appleseed Orchard, Hops and Barley, wasn't it Earthen Eats?
No, it's always been Earth Eats.
Earth Eats, hosted by Impossible, and the Shimmering Sips, hosted by Corksicle. So.
And much like they did last year, not all of these booths will be open at the start of the festival. Some of them will open several weeks to months later, given that this festival goes for 129 days.
Wow. And you put that emphasis on there.
It's long.
Okay. Finally, well, not finally, but go ahead. What's the next one?
Not something we usually talk about on the show. You know, the two favorite words of every Disney blog, price increases.
Yes.
But I put this on here because we've never been. If we ever decide that we want to go to the dueling piano bar on the boardwalk called Jelly Rolls, they've increased their price of entry to $18. Cast members get in half price and free on Sundays.
There you go.
They are open Thursday through Monday from 7 p.m. to 1:45 a.m. Have you ever been to Jelly Rolls?
I have been to Jelly Rolls.
I have not. Is it worth $18?
I would say it is, yeah. It's fun. There's two grand pianos that are kind of back to back, side by side. There's two piano players, and they just take requests from the audience, and they'll play songs back and forth. Just they pretty much play anything. So,
and we don't get over to the boardwalk very often unless we have a reservation at somewhere along the boardwalk or at the Swan or the Dolphin. It's like, I mean, yes, it's right out the back gate of Epcot, but we don't go over there very often.
We don't. Like, one of the main reasons we had to go over there was Ample Hills, and it's now closed. So that was kind of.
But there's the Boardwalk Bakery and the Boardwalk Ice Cream Shop, and then there's going to be that new cake shop, and
it's just no.
Just no?
Just no. And finally, in our upcoming things this week, it was announced that there will be a 2022 in-person pin trading event at Epcot. It's going to be, the theme is called One Family. It will be taking place in the World Showplace at Epcot. So this is I think the last one that we went to there was Fairy Tales. The last one that was held there was it Fairy Tales?
Yeah, it was Fairy Tales.
Fairy Tales was the last one.
2020 and 2021s were virtual.
So, and the virtual events
terrible.
They were terrible. But so we're looking forward to that. We do not know when tickets are going on sale yet. We'll let you know.
August 12th and 13th are the actual dates of the event. But yes, tickets are supposedly going on sale soon. But no one knows when soon is.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro, we went to Disney last weekend. This weekend we were camping, so it's like we don't have any Disney news for this weekend. But last weekend for my birthday, we were at Disney Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, and we did a bunch of things. But the main thing that we did, or the main exciting thing that we did, was we took the Keys of the Kingdom tour over at the Magic Kingdom. I've known a lot of people that have taken this tour before. I've heard a lot of things about this tour. If you're a Disney fan, especially a Disney World fan, and you are contemplating taking this tour, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It was amazing. It was fun. It was very informative, and you got to go backstage a couple of times. I don't know how long they have. Our tour guide mentioned that the one backstage area that we went to was new to the tour, and that was, we went backstage to the parade staging area, so we saw the warehouses where they had all the floats, but also we sat there as they lined up for Festival of Fantasy and saw all the character actors coming out in various stages of costumedness, and got to see the forklifts that pulled them up onto the floats. And I guess Festival of Fantasy parade is unique in the sense that the floats are too tall for the warehouse, so they all have top pieces that collapse down, and so as the floats come out of the warehouses, they have to erect them and raise pieces of them up even higher. It was really cool. It was a great tour. And there are just so many. Take the tour. I think before we took the tour, the thing that I was most excited about was going underground into the Utilidors and seeing the whole underground Disney piece of it. And that was cool, but it turned out that wasn't even my favorite part of the tour. I think the backstage parade stuff there, as well as just some of the things that they pointed out throughout the kingdom, such as the Tiki Room is a giant lightning rod. Never knew that. Not lightning rod for actual lightning, not just for opinions. It's like I got to hit the thatching on it, which is actually made out of shaved aluminum thing, so it like rattles like metal when you tap it. Anyway, it was cool. It was a very neat tour, and I highly recommend it.
It really was, and it was a long time coming, and it was definitely worth the wait. Don't want to spoil too much. I mean, you can find reviews everywhere on the internet of the tour. I mean, at this point, if you don't know that on the Keys to the Kingdom tour, you will go underneath the Magic Kingdom, you're probably not reading about the right tour. But yeah, it's very much a tour for, your Disney fans, your diehard Disney people, because you go backstage, you go underground, you see behind the curtain, you see how the magic is made. You have to be above a certain age to go on the tour because, one of the trucks we saw had
character costumes hanging and then their heads sitting in a box.
It's like, yeah.
It's like Mickey's head in a box.
Yeah, decapitated Mickey. It's like, if you don't want to see how the magic is made, don't take the tour. Yeah. But if you want to see a little bit behind the curtain, and it's a whole. I mean, this is an obvious statement, but it's a whole operation.
Yeah,
and they've got things down to the second. Staging for parades, and there's announcements, 30 minutes to step off, and
and just the amount, like the pavement changes color so that the actors know that they can actually be seen, like not by everyone, but there are ways to see around that corner when they're staging the parade, so that asphalt is a different color so that the character actors know that they have to be fully in costume at the point that they step on that pavement, different colors, so that a child doesn't see Chip and Dale walking around with their heads off, or see Pluto with their things. Some of the surprising things that we learned, again, not to spoil everything, but these are just surprising things I learned. I'd always thought that there was some kind of cooling system inside the character costumes. It turns out there's not. They do the parade. They're encouraged to hydrate before they get on those floats, and then they do that 30-minute parade, and there's no air conditioning enough in those costumes, which is interesting. I didn't know that.
Which is why our tour guide pointed out sometimes at the very end of the parade route, you'll perhaps catch a glimpse of a character getting ready to go backstage, and you probably shouldn't see them go like they're all just ready to be done, but. Yeah. The minute they cross that threshold backstage, it's like you go from being on to being off, and where's my water?
Yeah, and there's something that she mentioned is like if one of the character actors becomes there's a problem where they need to get off, they can actually do anything from just subtly speeding up the parade by a tenth of a mile an hour just to make it faster so that they can get off stage faster, to actually having different places where the floats can exit the parade route so that they can safely get the performer off of the float. So there's a whole bunch of different things there. We got to see Maleficent go through all of her machinations. When they put the parade floats back into the warehouse, they don't do it in parade order. They do it in a Jenga order, the order that they'll fit inside the warehouse. So as we were coming out, the parade, certain floats would have to come out and wait for other floats to come out past them so they could then line up in parade order. And during that time, what Maleficent does is go through all of her animations and the fire breathing and the sound systems and everything like that. And that was kind of cool. Our tour guide had used to work in parades, so she knew a lot of stuff about parades.
And supposedly, I mean, I feel like there's certain things on the tour that are set but it definitely feels like, because someone who was on our tour has taken the tour before and said there were parts of it that were completely new and completely different, and that it might actually vary based on who you get as a tour guide.
Yeah.
So
so we'd heard before that you got to see some of the joint kitchens and stuff. I was looking forward to doing that. We did not go through any of the kitchens, so we didn't see any of that stuff. Just to give you a heads up, though, the underground piece of it is the last thing you do. It's the last maybe hour of the tour, and it's really cool. It's just neat to see that. Everything's down, to see cast members walking around, and the Disneyland Philharmonic like coming down the corridor.
The Disneyland Philharmonic?
The Disney World Philharmonic coming down the, Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It was cool. But my favorite piece of the entire tour was near the end of our tour through the Utilidors, there were walls. Of course there's walls, but there were posters all along of the Pin series. Ever since they had started the Hidden Mickey series, there was a poster for each year of the Hidden Mickey series or the cast lanyard series, as they call them. And our tour guide actually brought up the fact that that pin trading could possibly be returning sometime soon. So that's good to know that pin trading has not been forgotten. That
it was very unspecific language, because I don't think anybody knows right now, and obviously we are still in the midst of a global pandemic, so things can and will change based on health concerns.
Mm-hmm. But it's a very popular thing, and it's nice to know that they're not going to get rid of it. I mean, it's going to be something.
I mean, the fact that they are firmly having an in-person pin trading event points to pin trading coming back in full force, if not the end of this year, early next year.
Yeah. The other thing, while we were there, we found a couple of mystery box sets that we liked that we had not opened before. So keep your eye on our YouTube channel. We're going to be doing some mystery box openings coming up here really quickly. And the final thing that we did, well, not the final thing, because we did a lot of stuff, but the thing that I wanted to talk about was we went and saw Drawn to Life, the new Cirque du Soleil show over at Disney Springs. It was actually how we kicked off our trip on Saturday night with my family, 7 of us going there to see Drawn to Life. I had seen, you'd never seen Lanuba before.
No.
Yeah. So I like it. That theater is amazing. It was amazing during Lanuba, just the way things pop up out of the stage and come out of the sky, and it's an amazing theater. The show was great. A lot of Disney animation added into the show, so it is very specific to Disney. So it was,
and this was the first time Cirque du Soleil had ever collaborated with Disney.
Yeah. So this is, the entire show has Disney elements throughout it, Disney music, Disney characters, and it was a great show. If I had a complaint for it, it would be that I felt the last number of the show was not their strongest number, so it kind of almost felt like it wasn't really ending on a high note.
Right. They definitely went out on one of the weaker acts of the show. I would have put that in the middle and moved a few things around.
Yeah.
But this was I'd seen YouTube videos of Cirque du Soleil, but I'd never seen it live. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I felt like there was going to be a lot more of the high-flying acrobatic stuff like the first guy.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a ton of that, and that may be due to the theater.
No, that's Cirque du Soleil. They in most of the Cirque du Soleil shows I've seen, it's not a lot of aerial stuff. That's the exception, not the rule. So, and there were 3 aerial acts in this one. There were the circle, the spinny circle things. There was the trapeze without the trapeze, so the stationary trapeze act, and then there was the rope guy. That we've all seen by this point. The rope goes way up to the ceiling and stuff. But Cirque du Soleil was, and I heard on another podcast someone talking about tickets being super expensive for Cirque du Soleil Drawn to Life, and they said, well, you can get cheaper tickets, but they're the nosebleed seats. We were in the mid-range seats. I didn't feel like we were bad seats at all. That there's not really a bad seat in that theater.
Right.
It is a very intimate theater. So when you're paying the $159 a ticket, you're in the first 7 rows down the orchestra section. I don't think there's an appreciable difference between being there and being in the first row of the $119 tickets, which is where we were. So I feel like, don't feel that you have to spend the most amount of money for the ticket. You can get a mid-range. You could even get the ones behind us, which were
right. I think those were like $89.
Yeah. And they're still. I mean, it's there are no nosebleed seats. There are no obstructed view seats. Everything is easy to see, no matter where you are in that theater. And like I said, there's projections going everywhere. There's things happening on stage. If anything, there's just way too many things to look at going on during any given act. But kudos to Cirque du Soleil. That's a great show. It's in my favorites. I still like Lanuba. But if you ever saw Lanuba, the final act in Lanuba was so intricately complex with the stage slid apart, and there were what are they called? Trampolines. There were trampolines everywhere underneath the stage, and then big like buildings would pop up out of the stage, and as people like hit the trampolines, they'd go in through a window of the building and out through the top, and it was just this crazy, like you're sat there with your mouth open, like going, "Oh my God, this is amazing." I was expecting another show-stopping kind of ending number there. So, like I said, my one complaint, the last number, it wasn't horrible. It was just not as exciting as some of the other ones that they had there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to add about Cirque du Soleil?
I think at some point maybe I'd like to go see it again. Mm-hmm. But I'll touch on that in my villains.
Oh, yeah, you didn't put them on the sheet, so
I did not.
I have no way of knowing what Zach's hero or villain is this week. Do you want to say anything else about our trip to Disney, our 3-day trip to Disney?
Not particularly. We went to Typhoon Lagoon on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Remember to take your towels and your
water shoes.
Yeah. Because we both took our swimsuits and then forgot to take the other things, so we had to go to Target and spend $75 on towels and swim shoes.
Now, in fairness, Typhoon Lagoon does have a towel rental service, so if you forgot your towels, you can always rent a towel there. And water shoes are not strictly necessary, but when you're talking about a water park in the sun
made out of concrete
with concrete paths, that concrete can get quite hot, and it does hurt the bottom of your little tootsies. So you'll be happier with flip flops or water shoes. There, you have to take them off on some of the slides.
Yeah,
but you'll thank me. Trust me, you'll thank me. Also, we learned that apparently end of March, beginning of April is a perfect time to go to Typhoon Lagoon because it was not crowded at all.
It was a little chilly the weekend we were there, almost to the point where it was going to dip below 70 and cause the water park to be closed, but it didn't.
It was mid 70s and sunny.
Yeah,
so anything in the sun was great. Once you got wet.
The worst part was walking around after you got wet because it was cold.
But it wasn't horribly cold. As long as you sat in the sun, you were fine. But yeah, it was not crowded at all. We didn't wait more than a couple of minutes on any slide that we went on, and the wave pool was relatively empty. It wasn't like as crowded as we've seen it before. So it was a great time that we had there. What was I going to say? There was something I was going to say about Typhoon Lagoon, and it's just totally blanking. So totally blanking out of my mind. So I don't know.
It'll come to you at like 4:30 in the morning.
Well, I'll wake up and I'll come back up here and I'll record an addendum. That's not going to happen. Anyway, Typhoon Lagoon. Yeah, that was the other. There's any other highlights from the trip? We did Typhoon Lagoon. We did Drawn to Life. We did
dinner at Le Cellier.
We did dinner at Le Cellier. We did dinner at Edison the first night. And other than that, we didn't. We checked out the Flower and Garden Festival.
We didn't really though. We haven't done like a whole Flower and Garden Festival day yet. That's because we were at Epcot specifically for dinner. So
that's true. And we saw Harmonious again, which we love.
We saw the last 3/4 of Harmonious again,
which is the best part of Harmonious. And then we listened to it on Spotify on the way back to the hotel. So that's true. What was I going to say about? Yeah, we got to use the new walkway at Epcot, which was nice. So we're going back to the Flower and Garden Festival
at some point
soon. So. Sometime coming up. Aren't we going back over there next weekend for something?
We'll be in Orlando. Did you want to make a park reservation?
If you read the internet, you can't make one. There's no park reservations to be had, which is Totally untrue. Anyway, let's just get to our heroes and our villains. Hey, we had a fun time, is what I was trying to say. We had a fun time at Disney. Our heroes and villains of the week. This week, we start with the villains because it's an odd episode. So do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, my villain of the week is Pluto.
But Pluto's your favorite character.
He is. And since we learned so much backstage about the Festival of Fantasy Parade, when we had first come out from backstage, there was a cavalcade going by that we kind of had to stand over to the side and wait for, and Pluto was in that cavalcade on the complete wrong side, so it couldn't wave at me. So when we watched Festival of Fantasy after the whole tour, the 3:00 parade, I made a point of standing on the right side of the road for Pluto. He was on the other side of the floor. So it's like, it doesn't matter where I stand, Pluto is always on the wrong side and won't wave at me, which makes me very sad. So Pluto is my villain this week. Pluto, you need to wave back to me, please. Please. Also, the Pluto cake wasn't at Epcot. That was a cake that they made for a DVC Midnight Madness event.
Moonlight Magic,
whatever. And they were out of it. So no Pluto cake for me.
I mean, they did just have another Moonlight Magic, so...
Yes, but we were camping this weekend, so we couldn't go and get it.
Maybe it's still there.
I'm not going to fool me once.
You're not going to drive over to Epcot, go to the land, just to be told no again.
Just to be told no. The little old lady there was just like, oh, no. She looked like Grandma Willow. She was just like, no, child. There is no Pluto cake to be had. Who's your villain of the week?
My villain is Cirque du Soleil.
Oh.
Because, as you pointed out, there is so much going on in Drawn to Life.
Yeah.
You have things on the stage. You have screens with projections. Mm-hmm. You have things coming down from the ceiling. You have people flying about. Mm-hmm. There's flashing lights and all sorts of things. It makes it very hard to focus on one particular aspect of the show, such that you miss other things happening that are important. Mm-hmm. So you kind of feel like I have to go back and see it again because I didn't get the whole story because I didn't know where to look.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you. That's how they get you to come back. So much stuff going on, you have to come back.
I mean, also, I'm going to toss Cirque du Soleil in as words are hard. Cirque du Soleil has a very strict no refund policy because we originally had tickets for this show as a Christmas present. Yeah. And then we both came down with COVID and there's no refunds for any reason. I'm sure I probably could have called them and made a case, but
you didn't even try. So you don't know.
On paper, there's no refunds, so we technically paid for this show twice.
Well, there you go. And my hero of the week is Mindy, our tour guide for the Keys of the Kingdom tour. Bless her heart, Mindy has worked at the Magic Kingdom for a long time, 17 years this time around, right? She worked there as I was unclear. I think she's a local, so I don't think it was DCA that she worked there. It wasn't a college program. DCP, whatever. That's my new word today. Whatever. She didn't work as a college, but she worked there out of high school, college, part time, and then went off to do some other stuff in her life, and then came back to Florida, and she's been there now for 17 years.
She had a 20-year hiatus.
But when you're on the Keys of the Kingdom tour, you have a earpiece and a little cellular connector that connects to a microphone that your tour guide is wearing. So that way you don't have to constantly be crowded around them. As you're walking around the park, you can hear in your ear what they're saying. And poor Mindy. It's like she walks a lot and you could hear her like... So it's like, as we're walking around, we were hearing Mindy breathing hard in our ear. And I was like, oh, poor Mindy. I feel bad. I feel like maybe we should get her like an ECV or something. So, but she was great. She knew a lot of stuff. She was super fun. And kudos to Mindy. You're my hero of the week. So,
my hero of the week, you've kind of already touched on, was all the billboards for the billboards.
Yeah.
The posters for the cast lanyard pins. Like I squealed like a happy little schoolgirl when we got to that portion of the utilidors, and it's like I didn't think that pin trading was that big of a deal internally.
Yeah.
but they very much, I mean, they celebrate it down there. So
yeah, there were full size posters from 2000, from when pin trading started, all the way up to
2019, which was I think the last year they did them.
Yeah, the last Hidden Mickey's series. So, and these are huge posters with like every single pin on it. So yeah, it was really great.
So it was nice to see that the thousands of dollars of pins that are sitting behind us are justified.
I don't know if they're justified, but
of course they're justified. Now we just have to put the rest of them on the walls.
Anyway, we had fun. That was our Heroes and Villains of the Week. We had fun at Disney. That's the takeaway there. And all these new things are happening. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to close the show. If you want to send us an email, you can do so. Our email address is don'tdodisney@gmail.com. You can check out our YouTube channel, WDW Aristocrafts, if you're not already watching this podcast on that channel. And if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify, we really would appreciate you. Well, I don't know why I suddenly sounded like Tim Tracker there. Hey, hello there. It's like, we really would appreciate you giving us a thumbs up or a 5-star rating, depending on which platform you're on. It's free. It's easy to do. Just give us a rating. It helps other people find our podcast, and we'd be very appreciative of it. So.
And now it's time to pay the price.
So until next time, don't do Disney
without us.